So when it's about people, write long emails. But what if you have your feelings hurt by some institution, company, the government, someone who is not a person? What should your instinct be? Should somehow find a flow. And just like with the email, it's best if the flow can be in writing. Analog to the emails that we talked about that are so powerful are open letters. The open letter can take many forms. If it's within your company and you're unhappy with something in your company, you can just write an open letter just to people in your company. And if it's something that is happening in the world and you think that your perceived injustice is something that the world should know about, let's say you feel mistreated by a corporation or the government or some big system, then you can just make an open letter to the entire world. Open letters happen, but are much less popular than they should be, because open letters are a huge win when you're fighting systems. Here's why. When you suffer an injustice in life, there are two sides to it. There's the game of self side, that you feel hurt, your ego feels hit, and you need some way to feel better. But there's also a game of life side, where, let's say, you lose money or something else. You are materially hit, so to speak. And what is a better way to fix both at the same time than writing an open letter, which is a hunter move? It makes you feel better because you're fighting, and the open letter is a flow, and systems cannot fight flows. Every time a system changes, it's because of some strong flow that just destroys all of its boxes. The systems are extremely boxy structures with hierarchy and so on, and they are just extremely helpless against flows. And if many years ago, before the internet, you could do an open letter, but it will be very hard to spread, and there will be no big invisible jury to take your side. Now it's so much easier. With social media, you can spread the letter, and everyone on social media will take your side, because no one loves systems, big, indifferent, inhumane systems. Everyone loves to stand for people who are victims of an injustice. Everyone wants to stand with David in a David versus Goliath battle, and everyone wants to stand with the underdog in any fight. So if your open letter tells about the injustice and also offers a solution, a structural solution that will make the system less prone to injustice in the future, so that people can also see their own self-interest in the proposed change, then you can start a literal revolution with a single open letter. Just, it's very important how you craft it. In every open letter, you need like 80% truth and 20% drama. If it's just the truth, it will be too dry. But if you go too much into the drama and how much of a victim you are, then people will just see you as a drama queen. So you should hit the perfect balance. There should be tension, there should be drama, but it should be the truth. Don't worry about presenting the truth in an exact 100% accurate way. In complex life situations, you also probably did something wrong. The other side did more wrong if the injustice is significant for an open letter, but you are also not perfect. You broke rules here and there, and usually you will not be 100% on the moral high ground. Of course, there are exceptions, but this is the general case. This fact you should simply ignore. If you are at least 80% at the moral high ground, you can just take the other side and hit them as hard as you can. Even if you are not 100% confident that you are right, if you are reasonably certain that you are right, you are always allowed to hit a system. you're not hurting any person. This is not something that you should have moral constraints about. Systems are just children of evolution, that they have outcompeted other systems and get established, and without pressure, without push and pull forces, systems will not get better. So even if you're just 60% certain that you're right, you're always allowed to hit a system and to try to push it to change in the right way. If it's not the right way, it will not happen. So just have faith in the evolutionary forces that build any emerging system, like most systems are. Be confident that what you do will almost certainly bring more good than harm. There is never a full guarantee, but there are no guarantees in life. So you don't need extreme confidence in something in order to start a fight. What you do need is that you're guaranteed to win. Let's see why with open letters we're guaranteed to win. If the other side is not government bureaucracy in a first world country, but let's say the North Korean dictator, then I would definitely not advise you to do anything that might be unsafe for you or your loved ones. There are very authoritarian systems in the world, and they should be changed. And there are people who sacrifice themselves to change. But before sacrificing yourself, think that sacrifices are made once, while a fight can be for a lifetime. So maybe it's better to wait for the right moment. Maybe it's better to just have some sustained push for change. It's not always effective to be a hero, though many times it is. But I will not be the person who would suggest to sacrifice yourself. So I Grow Younger is built from the standpoint of a single person, and it will not recommend you in any moment to sacrifice yourself because your life is precious. This should be your own decisions that you should take only if you 100% feel like it. The open letter advice is about hitting harmless targets. Most corporations in most countries are harmless, and most democratic governments, where there is real democracy and real freedom of speech, are harmless enough to hit. Systems will fight back always, but if you say something bad about a system in most countries, you will just be more ostracized than actually harmed. And you should be prepared for this. It's not a big problem. If public opinion is on your side and you're living in a free democratic country, you should not be afraid to hit with an open letter any corporation or any government. But if you live in an authoritarian regime, and if you live in a place where your human rights are not guaranteed, you should think twice and be wise about how you can bring the most change. Bravery and courage are great, but strategic thinking about the future is also valuable. Now that we have made the assumption that you can not be really physically prosecuted for hitting the government or corporation or an institution, let's see why it's a big win to hit them. First, an open letter should always be emotional. People will support you if they feel your emotion. Facts, unless they bring strong emotion in people for some reason, will not bring people into action. And you want to bring people into action. So, an open letter should ideally start with why you're the victim. It will be great if you also name a group that is a victim. So you're saying that I'm not just doing it for me, I'm doing this for these other people who don't have the courage to speak up, but I'm also speaking up for them. And then you should explain why the bad guys are the bad guys, the system you should clarify that you're not attacking individual people, that is just a flawed system, and then you should propose a way to change the system, and you should make this proposition as attractive and as exciting as possible. You should try to give every ordinary person who might read this a reason why they should support you, and it's even better if there are two reasons. Something coming from their self-interest and something coming from their empathy that till the end of the open letter you hopefully created for yourself. Why is the open letter thing so connected to flows? Because first, writing the open letter is a very flow experience, and reading it from the other side should also be a flow experience, but also because flow language is what will bring you success. Just like anything related to persuasion, convincing someone about your point of view, flow language is the key. And in flow language, you can use comparisons and you can use metaphors, suggestions, and anything that will give people the feel about how you want to make them feel, while giving absolutely nothing for the legal team of the government or the corporation that you are attacking to hang on to and potentially cause you legal trouble. You should state the facts that are unquestionable, and then you can use fluid language. For example, you can say that a cat will snuggle and crawl into your lap and say purr, but a tiger would eat you. The tiger is just a big cat. It's anatomically very similar to your house cat, to your pet. It's just bigger. And that size leads to differences even if the structure is the same. And you eat fish, but a shark would eat you, and it's the same in nature everywhere. It's a principle of nature. And following this principle of nature, we should naturally assume that all big corporations are evil because they are made of evil people. The structure is the same. It's because of the size. And if you say that, the legal department of the company have nothing, absolutely nothing to hang on to. If you say this corporation is evil because it's this one or that one, they can say, wow, like this is legally problematic that you're using our trademark and saying that it's evil. But if you just suggest it in a way that makes sense and leave the final opinion to the reader, they cannot say anything. And you are coming out as smart, you are coming up as seeing the big picture, and the system you are critiquing is just seeming like a system. If it seems like a system, people will have no empathy for it. They will only have empathy for you. And if they have empathy for you and don't have empathy for the system, they will be on your side even more. So you're trying to get all of the advantages to you. You're trying to have the advantage of flows and empathy. You're trying to have an advantage of someone who is a victim. You're trying to have an advantage for someone who is a hero fighting for other people too. You're trying to have the advantage of someone who will bring positive change, including in the lives of people who are reading it. You are coming out as a David in a David versus Goliath battle, and you are coming up as someone human fighting someone inhuman. So actually you have all the winning cards in your hand if you play it right. And does the corporation or institution have in return? Nothing. They are helpless with flows. So if you hit them hard, they will just do some defensive move, but largely just be unable to react. And if they have some aggressive lawyers who try to react in their legal box way, they are just giving you more power. Just they can send you a cease and desist letter, and then you can frame it, put it on your wall, and send this picture all over social media. And they will just be helpless, because even if they bring a court case or something, they don't have the if they don't have the actual reasons to do it and are just doing it to make you give up, then you can just double down endlessly. And if public opinion is on your side, they will back down. So in general, if you use the correct language, you should not be too scared of legal consequences. You are protected by free speech, and you are just stating your opinion online in a very smart way. Most open letters will not get super viral. The result you should expect is some moderate virality. There's just too much content online, and if you don't have powerful allies to promote your message, you will just get semi-viral. This is what happened with my open letter, which I'll tell you about in a bit. So if it's semi-viral, if not the whole country or the whole world learns about it, is it still worth it? Well, yes, definitely. Some of the changes will not be visible, but they will still happen. The open letter that targets a corporation or institution will get shared among all of its employees, because it's something that is interesting, that concerns their work, and they will just send it from one to another until most of them have read it. Of course, it may not be the whole corporation or institution if it's big, but at least the department that concerns your complaint, they will read it. And given that you did not directly attack the people, but you attacked the system, these people are very likely to be on your side. And if they used to close their eyes to certain injustices in the system they were working in, you may not be able to win over the system, but you may win the hearts of some of the people in it, which can lead to some amount of change from within. And even if no change happens, there is one change that will definitely probably happen, which is that the injustice that the system will do towards you is very likely to stop immediately, because the system is the system. If the system was unjust to all people all of the time, it will probably be outcompeted by Darwinistic forces and not exist. So you were either unlucky or you were the victim of your group. It was maybe a racist thing, maybe a sexist thing, maybe something connected to some group that you belong to. In either case, this is not the most important thing. The important thing is that whatever is the problem stops. Since there was never any incentive for people in this company or institution to adhere to certain standards, now you're giving them a push in the right direction. There also might be internal pushes, because every big organization has a PR department. The PR department is there to assess risks to the company or institution's reputation. If it's the government, it's harder because everyone already hates the government, so the bar is low. But corporations are very, very touchy about reputation. And if there's some well-written, worded, open letter circulating around in a flow way, in a way that just puts systemic things ahead. It's not just a complaint about this small single thing. It's not petty, it's grand. The PR department is very helpless against such a situation, because the PR department of the company is meant to create a positive image and address public complaints. Public complaints are a box thing, so they can address public complaints in a box way. Regarding their flow strategy, they have branding department who are trying to get this brand to create positive feelings among its potential customers. However, department can only be active, it cannot be reactive. because it's about ideas, it's about who we are, it's about our mission. And if I tell people that your mission is broken and you're actually making the world worse with some of your actions, the brand department is helpless and is feeling really bad because they now have a hole in all of their narrative. So they cannot really react. If the PR department reacts how it reacts to complaints, it's a box reaction. It will be a box reaction to a flaw. And believe me, it will not end well for them. Anytime that anyone tries to fight a flaw with a box defensive reaction, people will never be on their side. Have you seen if ever some PR statements after disasters in companies are ever received well? The only way to have a good PR statement after some disaster is to be honest and vulnerable, which is not something PR departments are used and suited to do. I'll give you an example. There was one company, I don't remember the exact name, maybe it was Buffer, but I'm not sure, that had a big disaster. The whole company is about scheduling and organizing posts on social media. They got hacked and all of their clients posted spam on all social media, like every single one of them. And this company survived after this total disaster while they were completely honest. They say, we fucked up big time. Still don't know how we got hacked. We're investigating. For now, the problem is mitigated, so you won't be continuing to post spam on your timelines. They were extremely honest and people forgave them because the public is willing to forgive if you're honest and vulnerable. PR departments of big companies and of institutions, they cannot afford to be vulnerable. It's just not who they are. So the only way that they could somehow counter your strong flow with a strong flow of theirs, so like we fuck up, we are vulnerable, we all have humans working here, we make mistakes, they cannot do it. Which means that this is a very uneven battle. You hold all the strong cards and they have no winning cards in their hands. A very good asymmetric situation for you, which is the very reason why I'm recommending open letters. Apart from influencing the workforce of a corporation with an open letter, if it's a public corporation, you can also influence the stock price. Price is a bit hard to influence because it's just people crunching numbers, quarterly reports, expectations, models. It's a very mathematical thing. So reputation doesn't really affect the stock price that much. But if you put in investors' heads a seed of doubt about the business model of the company itself, you can really hurt them big time in the market. It's the doubt is the key word here. Because let's have a very well-known public example. Facebook, Rich Analytica scandal. Facebook was caught really misusing personal data and there were lawsuits and stuff. But Facebook settled most of the lawsuits and they, in the end, over many years, they lost $6 billion in settlements, which for Facebook is nothing. Do you know how much did Facebook stock dip in the middle of the scandal while Mike Zuckerberg was questioned by senators and all of this? They lost 24% of the company's value, which is equal to $134 billion of temporary loss. True, they later regained all of it after investors realized that nothing would actually change in the financial models that were critical to Facebook. But this brief period of 2 months when there was doubt if Facebook would ever be allowed to continue managing and selling personal data, like in quotes, well, they're not actually selling it, they're selling ads based on it, but it's more or less similar. The investors were questioning if the whole business model of Facebook would be put in question. And this doubt caused the stock price to crash 24%, which is huge in 2 months for such a big company. Because of this doubt, and every seed of doubt starts from somewhere. This is why it's illegal to put a single message in a forum saying that this bank may collapse. Because people will repost it everywhere. It may become a rumor, then it may grow and grow. And when people start withdrawing money from the bank, when a bank run happens, it may actually collapse. And it may all start with a single message. This is why your free speech doesn't cover this type of shouting, fire in the theater type of stuff. So, but if you just seed doubt, just question something that investors haven't questioned before, you may affect the market. And this is something that all companies are extremely wary about. They all know where the weak points of their business model are. They all know which their existential risks are. You may not know them, but they know. So they're very afraid of anything like this happening, of any of their like small weak points being exposed. You are much more powerful in this regard than you might think. So-called corporations are touchy about reputation. If they're public, they may be scared because of the stock price. What about government institutions, your other typical target for open letters? Well, the government is not actually a government. It's just politicians from a ruling party or a coalition of ruling parties. Politics is an extremely ugly fight where everything is used because it's a brutal fight. So if you give the opposition seeds for attack, the ruling party will be extremely unhappy and will somehow try to mitigate the situation. Politics is all about PR, it's all about momentum. So if there's a chance that you might influence the momentum, even just a little bit, everyone will care instantly. Because this is all that politics is. It's all it's about. It's about perception, it's about momentum. It's not about reality. It's about perception. How people see the politicians. It's not what they actually do. They may do anything, but politics is about what they seem to be doing. This is why politicians always try to appear to be doing the best thing, even if they don't want to, even if they just can't. Sometimes it's impossible to do what they promise or what they promised in the past, but they will always try to appear as if they were doing it, and at least if they are doing everything possible for it to happen. If you somehow give the opposition food for attack, it can be very powerful in an open letter, and you can be strategic about it. You can contact the opposition, but try to stay out of the fight itself, because politics is something extremely ugly. It's like a fight in the mud where everyone gets muddy. No one wins in political fights, so you should try to stay out of the fight itself. You should try to keep a balance with maybe using a bit political forces, but staying out of the fight, because in political shit, no one wins. So let's summarize your wins from the open letter. Psychologically, in the game of self, you are in this unbearable box of injustice. All you can think of before you start the open letter is, I was treated unfairly. It's a very bad feeling. It's a strong, purely biological feeling, which monkeys also have. If you don't know, there are experiments with monkeys about fairness, which are extremely funny to watch. There are about two monkeys in cages, and the researcher gives cucumbers to both monkeys. Both monkeys eat the cucumber. It's not the best, but it's still eatable. And then one monkey gets a banana and the other gets another cucumber. The one that gets a banana happily eats the banana, and the one that gets the cucumber looks at the other monkey and throws the cucumber back at the researcher. It's a real experiment. Even monkeys are very, very sensitive to fairness. Of course, humans even more. It's the feeling of fairness is a biological feeling for all social mammals. We are in this box where the only thing that we can think, it becomes our temporary identity, is that we are treated unfairly. We should destroy this box and get into flows. How do we do it? We need to spring into action. However, we have a certain person, we may try to fight, we may try to negotiate, but when we have a big indifferent system, how do we fight? We fight with an open letter. The open letter is the perfect start for a future fight, but it's also valuable in itself. Why? Because it makes you feel better. You feel like you did something and it's a flow experience. So, game of self, 100% win. You also made a hunter move because even if it objectively, when you start a fight with an open letter, you are holding the winning cards. If you can write good open letters and you have some allies, if you're not completely alone, you're actually in a winning position. But the perception of this in others' eyes and somehow in your eyes too will be that you're still in a David versus Goliath battle because you're small, they're big. Even if you're powerful and they're like helplessly paralyzed after your open letter, still it's like a David versus Goliath battle. And who starts David versus Goliath battles? Hunters. So you're getting the ultimate hunter mode signal. There is also a very hidden advantage about writing the open letter is that even if it gets just semi-viral, at least all of your peers will see it on Facebook or whatever you share it. They will see it. And this is a very interesting process because you get to test your entire social circle because you will not get support from the people that you expect to get support. It will be very confusing in the start, like it was with my open letter. Had always like you consider them, let's say, competition, rivals. They may throw their entire support behind you, while people who you think that you are on the same page and you never had any disagreements with, they will decide not to support you, and they will sometimes tell you in the face, I will not support this. So it would be really a very down-to-earth experience of how deluded you are about your social contacts. Your friends and colleagues and peers, you will see radically surprising lower or higher levels of support. But in general, people will support you more than you will think. Get strong emotional support from people that you have never met, that you don't know well, and it will be really motivating to see this. Another thing about open letters is that open letters are basically a form of free advertising. Personal brand is a very important thing, and it will lead to professional success if you have a strong personal brand. But how do you build a strong personal brand? It's one word: authenticity. You have to be authentic. You have to show who you are to people. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be transparent. And in an open letter, you will see these traits of your character. They will see your vulnerability, they will see your transparency, and they will see that you're also strong and willing to fight. This will win people on your side. And people are so irrational and so emotional with their choices, they will immediately get clients, partners, and anything that you might want. This is just an added bonus of all of your other wins with the open letter. You will also attract social trust and attention, which are valuable currencies in any situation and may help you with your future work or your future fights. And of course, even though in I Grow Younger we look at everything from your personal standpoint, open letters generally make the world a better place. What's better than that? The power of flows, and you hit the corporate motherfuckers or whatever the target of your open letter is hard in a situation where for you it's a win-win and for them it's a lose-lose. No better reaction to an injustice. And let me tell you about my personal experience with open letters. 2013-14, a lot of what Google back then called web spam, which is just creating websites in order to manipulate Google to do SEO in a way that's legal but forbidden by Google rules. Google is not too aggressive in punishing this. They're much less aggressive than Meta, Facebook, Amazon, other companies are much more aggressive in punishing spam behavior. Google is quite lax about it. But in this year, they had some really evil editors in Bulgaria, which decided that I was too successful or too confident or whatever, and they went personally after my more than 1,000 websites. In the beginning, I was just, oh, whatever, I get penalized. It has happened before. I'll just file for reconsideration and they will fix it, but they were not. And then I realized that they had banned not just my spam websites, but literally every website that I owned, even if it was perfectly legit. So not only Google didn't go through the effort to really see which websites are violating their search guidelines. They are not even terms and conditions because no one really signs or agrees anything legal. It's just guidelines. So you do this with your website, and if you don't follow the guidelines, we may penalize you and you will not appear in search. So there were websites that followed the guidelines but were still penalized, which means that someone in Google just targeted me personally and tries to erase all of my online business. Any distinction if it was violating Google's guidelines or not. We tried reconsiderations, they failed. Then we tried outreaching via common SEO professional to the Google editors, and they refused communication. So when the normal approaches were exhausted, I resorted to an open letter, which suggested Google is a big, indifferent, evil company. No personally is responsible for it. It's just a big system with wrong incentives, and people may improve their lives and attack the system by installing an ad blocker. Many people like this message, so the open letter was very quickly read by more than 10,000 people. Out of social trust, attention, following, most importantly, I felt better because I turned from the sheep in this game to the hunter. Now Google were on the hook, and it may be an accident, maybe a coincidence, or it may be because of the open letter. They immediately stopped penalizing all of our websites. Again, it may be a coincidence, we'll never know, but if it's a coincidence, it's a relatively big one because we have penalties, and all of a sudden, no penalty for many years without us doing really much different things. We build new websites and continue doing the same because it was earning a lot of money. What is the moral? Again, probably, we cannot be certain. Someone in the Google PR team say, okay, let's not mess with the crazy person anymore, because tweets like, wow, this person just declared war on Google are not helpful for our reputation. Social media, zero money invested. I could have bought press releases, I could have bought ads. No, it was just a small, organic, semi-viral thing. It took me 2 days to write the letter and translate it into four versions, Bulgarian and one in English for advanced SEOs and one for everyone. So it was 2x2 metrics, 4 versions. It took me some time to write and translate, probably something like 2 full days. But it was a joyful, slow process. I felt like I was fighting back. I was excited, also a little anxious, not because I think that Google will put a prize on my head or something. It's very far from their way of thinking. But because I was doing something new, I was way out of my comfort zone. It was seeming very weird to all of my friends and colleagues, but I was feeling that it was the right thing to do. I was feeling the right flows in it, and I was feeling the right structures that support me in this David versus Goliath battle. And there are still people who still have adblock installed to this day, thanks to this campaign. It did cause Google some financial loss. We don't know if it's 6 or 7 figures, the exact amount is unclear, but I did hit back some reciprocity of the loss they caused me and the loss I caused them. It was, let's say, a fair fight because they backed off and everything is in order. It shows you the power that you actually have with the flows. It's not assumed that you can just start a war with Google and the final result would be parity. But you also have power. The big company, corporation, institution has the power of size, the power of structure, you have the power of flows and the power of the underdog. And they can even out pretty good.